Hey everybody, this is Nico.
Hey everybody.
Speaking.
Hey everybody. Now that I've unmuted my mic, let's try it again. Hey everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Mainstream, where we speak to real industry experts from the mainstream and, well, figure out what it takes for blockchain technology to gain adoption in the mainstream. And of course, this program has a special drinking game. Every time I say mainstream, you take a shot. So just FYI, that's still on. So yeah. Today it's really Nico's already ahead of us. I don't know if he's drinking Jack Daniels or what's he doing with that cup. You never know. You truly never know. So yeah, of course, today with us, of course, I have my co-host, co-horde, dude, Nicholas Despopoulos. And so he, who are you, Nico?
I'm your business partner, and I do all the really exciting things for the business, like accounting and all the wonderful things that nobody else wants.
Nico plays the role of my Jewish grandfather.
That's right.
And of course, with us, we have none other than Fernando from Zen Steez. Say hi to everybody, Fernando.
Hello, everyone. I was getting ready.
Let's
take a shot. But
more excitement. Come on, more excitement. It's like 9. It's like 8 a.m. for you.
No, it's like 7.
It's 7 a.m. here. I'm about to take some shots of some tea. This is that ginger cigar we got from the World Tea Expo.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. That was a good time. It's great to have Fernando on the show with us because, first of all, Fernando really is our target audience for Palmyra. He is a tea shop owner. He is a tea buyer, and of course, he is the OG Palmyra pioneer. Isn't that correct, Fernando?
Oh yeah,
that's right. That's the ticket. And they're going to be. You're going to be somewhat of a legend going forward. You were the one that macheted the path to Palmyra, to the lost city of Palmyra. So it's good to have you. Okay, so let me give a little bit of a background on Fernando. So Fernando, he had a really, really interesting origin story, actually, how you came into tea. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, it's not the traditional tea route, that's for sure.
Yes.
A lot of the tea leaders, it's a family ordeal. They come from a family of tea drinkers, at least the ones that are importing, manufacturing, the ones that are doing big things in the tea industry. They usually have a history, or at least an international history. I did have an international connection simply by being in the United States Navy. So that gave me an advantage. But, I left to Europe for 10 weeks. My wife and I just backpacking. We were 22, 23 years old. I had just finished 5 years in the United States Navy. And I wrote up my business plan. I came back. I used my 3 months of unemployment to start my company. And that was back in 2012. And it's been growing ever since. I have 2 cafes, a warehouse, and I work with, shout out to Tea Vendor. Tea Vendor used to be known as International Tea Importers. They help me help more tea companies, because a lot of people in the tea industry, they're really great at promoting tea, not so much selling. The business side is really my strength, is to be able to build and grow and scale tea companies. And when I saw Palmyra or Zengate Global at the World Tea Expo, I was like, because I had that eye for business, I think I was able to see what you guys were doing with blockchain technology. A lot of people were intimidated by it, is as if they never seen this type of technology before. Like if only people knew checks and they never saw an ATM machine, it was just like, wow, this is going to change the industry. And so I volunteered, and it's been a great journey selling more tea, and we're helping out small tea farmers with their local economy, and really supporting the global tea industry.
Yeah, we've been
that's really good
grateful for
to
that
hear.
support. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you want to cover on the origin story, Dan?
Yeah, well, so okay, so and you like you said, you've had a atypical origin story here, right? So you did 5 years in U.S. Navy, as you said, and I just wanted to kind of really accent that to the audience. And like you said, you got out of the Navy and you used your unemployment check to start your business. So basically, that was that you're a true entrepreneur, and I really respect that. And I think that's actually one of the reasons why you had this open mind to to the vision of how we can progress the industry. And so yeah, I really salute you for that, because not everybody has not everybody can go first. Somebody's got to go first, but not everybody has the CO Jones to go first. And so yeah, I mean, I salute you for that. So let's kind of fast forward to part of your origin story at Palmyra, and with Zengate. So you said your experience with last year's or continuation of your origin story. So your last year with the World Tea Expo was interesting. You kind of I remember when you approached us, when you approached the booth for the first time, when there are other people that are telling me there's like, oh, this will never work. This we can't have transparency, and this transparency will screw things up. What do you mean transparency? I literally had people say this. Transparency, if you put transparency into the industry, is going to destroy the industry. First of all, no. Second of all, that's kind of bullshit. I mean, what do you mean is going to destroy the industry? So, like, the industry relies on 100% on backdoor deals and opaqueness. I don't believe that. It doesn't exist in the real world of business to me. So I just kind of wanted to get your take on, okay, so how has your experience with the World Tea Expo, because the World Tea Expo really is a very interesting conference. It does kind of aggregate a lot of different producers and buyers and people that are doing different jobs there in between, and kind of puts them in a setting which is traditional, but still you get introduced to some more like 21st century in the now stuff. So how was your experience this year at the World Tea Expo as opposed to last year?
The World Tea Expo is a culture. You have to understand culture. It helps if you speak multiple languages like you guys. But what helps the most is money, buying power. And you probably caught that. The people who have the power are the ones that have the buying power, the distribution power. Being in Los Angeles, we have about these farmers markets, health and wellness fairs. Just here in Los Angeles, we have wonderful weather. There's a lot. It's one of the few things that's wonderful we have.
I remember that. I mean, it doesn't matter how shitty your life gets in LA, at least the weather is nice, right?
Yeah, weather's nice. Women are nice too, by the way. Very beautiful women.
That too, yeah. That absolutely.
But
Yeah, Nico can't hear stuff like that.
I digress. To be culturally relevant, to understand different values is important at the World Tea Expo. There's a way you hand your business card. There's a way you engage in e-commerce. But what every one of the people at the World Tea Expo wants to know are three things. It is what tea to carry, how much of that tea to carry, and then how to sell that tea for a profit. It's what every tea entrepreneur is looking to do, whether you're a farmer, importer, manufacturer, retailer, you have cafes, online business. Those are the three biggest headaches that people are trying to get past. And that's one of the things that's not at the top of everyone's mind. And you can see that. Everyone has different views on the industry. Some become very romanticized by how it's produced. We'll meet people who can, drink some tea and they could tell you which side of the mountain it was grown, but they can't tell you how to price it. They can't tell you how to sell it to a retailer or a chain of grocery stores. And there's that's where I kind of come in. Dan, I appreciate you saying that I'm an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur. And I don't think I've met anyone who's ever done business with me or worked with me or worked for me who would say that I'm not an entrepreneur. That entrepreneurial spirit means you jump in when most people think it's a bad idea. And that's because we see something, whether our vision is accurate or not, but we're visionaries and we take a step forward. That's the difference between a visionary and a dreamer. A lot of people will just sit back and relax. Oh, we'll wait. I'll wait. But it's a whole other level of skill set to see the vision and then to go after it. And what I think that separates myself from a lot of other people in the tea industry is that business mindedness. That's not to say that I'm not to say that everyone lacks that, but if people don't jump onto this blockchain technology that Palmyra is utilizing, they're going to find themselves way behind because technology is moving quickly and the tea industry hasn't been moving at that same pace. And as a result, we see a lot of tea farmers who are still struggling because they haven't utilized, or the people that they work with haven't utilized that technology. And I can go on and on about that. And I think the World Tea Expo, you definitely see multiple worlds colliding, and those who are utilizing technology to help move their own business, but also the economic and international relations connected with the tea industry. There's a lot that's going to be changing in the next 5 years, and I'm excited to work with Palmyra to help to grow the tea industry.
I'm really interested in what you brought up, talking about what tea to carry, how much of it to carry, right? And how to price it, how am I going to sell it? And these issues with technology and price and the tea industry as a whole kind of getting caught behind. We're taking a look at an article that was talking about, the rising input costs in the tea industry in general. It just to grow and produce tea in the field, it's maybe 9 to 15% more expensive than it was the year before. And we're not seeing any increases in prices in the auction system. And it's continuing to squeeze those producers. And I was just wondering, one, I guess, have you felt any of this phenomena in your business? And two, what's your take? If you haven't felt it, what's your take on the situation?
Well, just to give people an understanding, there are some places like Calcutta and India where they auction off tea, and and what sells the most is the cheapest. The cheapest tea is auctioned out like a quarter for a pound, and that's a lot of tea that's picked. Tea's picked right here. Going in, a lot of it is women, predominantly women in indigenous third world parts of the world, and it's all about, and it's all supporting a beverage that a lot of people drink. So understanding that aspect, I think, is important. People are paying more for just about everything, but that isn't being trickled down to the tea gardeners, the tea farmers, the tea pickers, most of whom are women who lack education and lack the ability to go and work in a city. Okay, that's right there. 9% increase, that might be for medical costs. I don't think it has to do with the technology to harvest the machinery required. You can go to those tea farms and see that they provide medical care, education. I'm curious to what those costs are, what those hard costs are. It will likely be logistics, but I will say this: the people in the tea industry, tea is growing in America. I think that as the tea industry grows, it's going to be passed down. It just takes a while, that ripple of. I don't think we can see it immediately. We can see a rise of costs. And this is basic economics. By the way, you ever read a book called Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell's great book? It's I think it's going to become illegal in America soon to read. But the idea is that when big leaders in business do well, it trickles down. And historically, that's always how it's been. Ancient Egypt, when Pharaoh became super rich, well, then all those under took advantage. And so, yes, there was a gap between the super rich and the super poor, but as the rich increased, those finances get passed down in luxury. So that means getting higher quality tea. As the tea industry grows, higher quality tea will be picked and sold for a higher price. And historically speaking, that's happened in the last 50 years. Maybe not in the last 5 years, thanks to COVID, but we have so much inflation, so much government money being pushed in. We really don't have a clear understanding of what the economy is. We have boards. So India, I can't speak on China, but these in Sri Lanka, they have boards, Indian boards, government regulations to help regulate the industry, which isn't bad in of itself theoretically, but let the economy self-regulate, and you will see that if those tea farms want to stay in business, they're going to have to produce better tea at a better price, and they're going to have to do so in a way to take care of their people. Because if the people aren't taken care of, then the business will not last. And that's true for any institution, any organization, nonprofit or not.
Yeah, this is actually, I kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit because one of our previous guests, Jem, he actually pointed something out to us, and that is what you said. There's a lot of tea being produced, right? And there is actually too much tea being produced right now. And one of the so there's two issues that the industry is having right now. And this is, again, I kind of would like for you to elaborate on this a little further, kind of what you see, which would probably be a continuation of what you were saying. And then is number one, the quality of the tea is just they're just trying to just push it out in some of these tea producing regions, just to kind of flood the market, basically, cheaper whatever. And two, it's also a problem with stock reporting. And what he was telling us about, I believe it was somewhere in Africa, maybe in Kenya, they discovered they had these warehouses that had something like some obscene amount of tea. They were packed with tea that really they just didn't know about.
Tons and tons and tons.
It was like 100. Wasn't it like hundreds of tons of tea that they just
it's some absurd amount of
they just didn't report on, just because this the information, I guess, channel in the industry is kind of disjointed in places. And so I just also wanted to kind of get your take on that. We were talking about this earlier, about how, when we started the program, about how we were told that, oh, well, transparency is going to kill this industry. I think actually lack of transparency is killing the industry. And I wanted to get your take on that. How have you had major issues with lack of communication or trust in stock, basically, in your supply chain?
Oh my. Okay, this is like my PTSD prior military COVID is coming up because there was a shortage of lemon myrtle. Is lemon myrtle or lemongrass in Australia? Do you guys know about this? This happened in 2020.
Yes, I heard about this. This is insane. I think it was lemon myrtle. Yes.
And I use it in one of my detox blends. Take a look at zenstea.com. And there were pallets. I talked to the lemon myrtle. Her name is Diana. She grows rooibos in Australia. Or she grows rooibos. She grows a few other things in Australia. Maybe it's not, but she grows like lemon myrtle. That's like one of the big things she grows. She grows and she said so much in 2020 on the docks, but Australia, they decided to shut down and not allow it to be moved. And as a result, lots of blends and teas that use that one ingredient were put on pause. And a lot of people were not able to make the transactions because of this one ingredient not being available. And no one was able to keep track of it because Australia, in their wisdom, decided to shut everything down. And then there was the whole big old fire because, again, the government decided to regulate, and you know how that worked out with all those animals dying. When people are reporting everything, at least the tea that they're producing, it brings a peace of mind to people in the industry. They know that if one country produces X amount of tea, but that tea is not able to leave the country, then they'll be able to forecast what they're going to produce, what they're going to bring in. I bought a lot of tea in 2020 from other countries because the countries that I was trying to buy it from, India was one of them, China was one of them, they put their business on pause, and that hurt the global economy, and simply because people weren't communicating with one another. That's on an international level. Okay, now let's just keep it down on the basic level. Right here, I have a bunch of teas, and I have teas at my warehouse, my other cafe, and my other locations. I have to have so much tea in stock available at any of these locations, but some tea runs out. And if I don't know about what tea is being promoted, what tea is being sold at one location, it's going to affect how the other locations run because they're doing transactions. I don't like the idea of giving people too much information if they don't know how to use it, right? I don't think transparency is bad because transparency creates more trust. Knowledge is power, but ignorance is bliss. If people knew what was involved in the tea industry, I think more people would support tea than coffee because tea is far more humanitarian than coffee. And I think that I know that transparency and seeing where tea's at changes how people buy and sell tea. It changes how they grow their business. If there was blockchain technology where people could track inventory, we wouldn't have so much waste and there wouldn't be so much tea stocked up that you can't sell, because that's one of the issues is how much tea and what teas to carry. You can't know that without being able to track inventory. And people, China's one of the worst with it. China is probably the worst when it comes to showing transparency with their tea, not just tea. But as a result, I have tea farmers. One of them just met with me on Saturday about how she has her brother has so much pu'er, tons of pu'er, and the economy is bad, and so she's sneaking it in to the U.S. and she's asking me to help her sell tea because it's not being tracked and there's an over amount of tea of these pu'er bricks soon to be available at zenstea.com. But that type of conversation needs to be had, and ideally we would all do it well. It can be abused, but bringing transparency, so long as people understand that tea is a commodity and that if we produce too much, it will inflate the market. And if we have too little, it'll increase the price. It has to be sustained. And so I can speak a lot about that. But, on an international level, on a local level, back to the international level, transparency, keeping track of inventory, tea produced is a real issue that is impacting the smallest and the weakest tea farmers and the poorest tea farmers.
Let me ask you about something else. I mean, connected to tea supply. I mean, there's different types of products, different categorizations, and I understand that you also have committed to yourself in a large part to offering a selection of organic teas. That's correct?
Yeah, pretty much only organic.
Right. And so I just wanted to get your insight into the process of certification, how that affects the tea supply, how that affects, your access to product.
I remember this conversation when we first had it. You asked me how important is the certificate organics. The certification is really just frosting on the cake. Remember I told you at the Tea Expo we can tell what part of the mountain it grew on, what season. I've drank so much tea. I can tell you if it's organic or not, without a doubt, easily. And I can tell you if it's wild crafted. The people in the tea industry like supporting organic for multiple reasons. Number one is it's healthier, it's better for the ecosystem, the biodiversity. That is, you have wildlife going through the tea gardens, bugs, butterflies. That's important and that's good. The regulation doesn't often the regulation has often done more damage to organic tea farmers, specifically the smaller tea farmers, than it's helped. When I was in India, I went to this small little tea farm in Uti that is in like the Blue Mountains of southern India, like Nilgiris. And this tea farmer was the richest man in his community, all right? Richest guy there. And that didn't say much. And I was going and checking out, and I was talking to him about the organic certifications. He says it's organic, but he can't afford to pay for it. He's got a village of 200 people that he employs. He employs like 200 people through his little tea farm. And this is not a big village. The village is probably 4,000 to 5,000 people, if that. And he employs 200 of them, the biggest business there. And he can't afford to get that organic certification. That's on a personal level. My buddy AP, who works at, well, maybe he wouldn't want me to mention his names, but I can tell you, ask anyone in the tea industry, not on the record, okay? Off the record, what they think about the organic certifications. I'll tell you, I used to have my organic certification. I had it for 3 years. I dropped it because from just an importer's perspective, it became more and more expensive. How much more is it for an exporter, those who grow and manufacture? That's the reality that we live in. The certification is great. but the regulation boards often do more damage, and I think the BBC has done interviews and investigations about the Assam tea gardens, which is, ideally supposed to help, but it doesn't.
Well, yeah, here it. That's all right. You're in a tea shop. Don't worry. So
Yeah, actually, I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. What you were talking about with the rising costs. Now, what do you think is costing more? Is it just government waste, or is it actual costs of producing your certificate? Why is it becoming more expensive?
Two parts. So I'm in Los Angeles, where the more regulation, the better. Which is, I hate that. When you have so many employees, you get regulated. When you sell so much more tea, you get regulated. The powers that be think that, well, the more business you do, the more regulation you're going to experience. And so if I can be a little vain, or just kind of like self promote,
do
I
it.
stopped growing my Ben's Tea House brand in locations. I now do private labeling and drop shipping. I help other tea businesses grow because I reached that 25 plus employee. And when you have that many employees, you get put on a list. When I hit my first million, which I think was in 2016, my 5th year in business, something like that, I got put on a list. When you start selling millions and you start doing really well, the government starts paying attention to you. Trust me, they will track and find you, and they will knock on your door saying, we saw you did pretty well. We like some more money. And they'll come up with a new regulation to do that. And there's a bell curve, right? Economics, there's a certain sweet spot in everything. You produce the best, you can only produce so much good tea before the good tea kind of gets saturated. So I think it's a fine dance, but do know that in the world we live in, the more more money, more problems. Let's tell you that. More money, more problems.
Yeah.
And on that note, when you grow to that level, you have to change your infrastructure. There's a tea company that's moving to Texas. They're based in Los Angeles. They're moving to Texas because in order for them to continue to grow at the rate they want to grow, they can't be where they're at. They have to change locations, and as a result, hundreds of people are going to lose their job.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, and I mean, my question here is that I mean, it sounds to me like a lot of these issues are, is just governments being governments, bureaucracies. It's a bureaucratic issue. Now, with that said, how would you see, say, things like digital certificates affect these issues? Would it have any impact? Say, for example, if you were able to get these certificates issued on chain or in an immutable way, do you think that the government would bother you less? I mean, or bother you more? I mean, what do you think would be the I guess the effect of digitizing these things and putting them on utilizing blockchain technology to issue these particular credentials?
You guys remember vaping, when vaping became legal, or when it became a thing? You could do it, know what to do with it. It's like, it's not smoke. It's not lighting anything. And it took a while for the government to catch up. A bunch of these vaping companies made a lot of money really quickly. Those who jump on this blockchain technology, we're going to make a lot of money really quickly. And then the government's going to try to figure out a way to start regulating that. And so that's how I see this blockchain technology is going to bring transparency. You're going to cut out middle people. You're going to cut out waste. There are tea farmers. There's one thing like about learning about the tea industry. This is usually how it works. You have a poor farmer like one of my buddies who's in India, small poor farmer, 5,000 person village, right? 200 employees. They send enough money for this guy to go to London to the US to get an education. They go there, meet some business. They set up a business in the US or, in the UK. And then they start importing and they slowly bring their family in. And what happens is they build up a business to start supporting their family. But they never really jump on the technology. They never leave that like old school way of doing business. And as a result, everyone in the family moves up. It's good for the village. But if they're able to jump onto the technology train, they're going to see how much waste is being just missed. There's so much time, money, and energy misplaced when you go that old school route. And I see it. Well, my cousin just said it was a good batch of tea, so I brought the tea in, and it's a nice orthodox tea leaf, and we're going to sell it for $20 a kilo. Then, they're excited, but they lose track. It often happens in family, and especially in the tea industry, there's a lot of nepotism, a lot of keeping it in the family, and I don't think that everything is well regulated. I don't think everything is it's not well organized, nor is everything accounted for. And I think when family and tea, because they're both synonymous, tea and family go together in the tea industry, you often leave a lot of money on the table and it just gets lost and you sell it for cheap because no one wants to buy it. And that's a very common issue in the tea industry. You have some great tea, but it's past its date, and now you just got to get rid of it.
So, I mean, when you're talking about things are not well accounted for, you mean like data capture? We're not really understanding exactly what qualities.
Well, more like I was thinking more specifically the tea. But if you could have blockchain technology with these timestamps saying this is where it's at, this is when we go, this is the prime time to sell it, it'd be really good for business. I know that there's some tea that I could hold on for longer, like good black Darjeeling teas, pu'er teas. I could hold on for longer, it's going to sell. But if I have some really good green teas, I know it's a time sensitive thing and I have to push this to the front of the list. And that blockchain technology to have everything on an Excel sheet, on a Google Drive, or, some sort of cloud where you can track everything, that would be so helpful. And that's where we're headed. People in the tea industry, the leaders in the tea industry are heading in that direction. They're just doing it very slowly. So I think this blockchain technology, Palmyra, is going to be a real useful tool in their toolbox to help grow the tea industry and their business.
Yeah, thanks for that, because what happens with, I guess, with our industry, with the blockchain industry, is that, and I said this many times before, and I'm not the first one to say it or the last one to say it, is that our industry tends to create solutions and then look for problems to solve with those solutions, not the other way around. And that is just not going to work. That's not going to work for mainstream adoption. Take a shot. So realistically, I mean, what you're saying is immutability is something that is useful, right? So you're saying that putting these things in where you have an immutable record, right, of some of these transactions, of some of the stock, would help. Now, what you also said is, transparency is good, but I guess what I got from that is there's such a thing as too much, right? So, and I agree with that. I mean, it's not really about too much transparency, about too much information without really targeting an audience for that information, right? So of course, you can have all this information available to your, to your end customer about the tea, but chances are 99.9% of the people are not going to care that it came from, field B2.7 and was picked at 3:43 p.m. or something like, or actually it gets picked in the morning. So, it's 6 a.m. or something like that. It's most likely not, it's not going to matter to the average person, right? So what I kind of wanted to get from you is, what do you think is important to the end consumer as far as this transparency versus what is important to the industry, right? So somebody who is B2B versus B2C, what information would you say B2C is kind of, what is their biggest thing that they were have a value add on versus B2B if they were to use blockchain tech, if they were to adopt these solutions, and actually, you're on the mass adoption side, right? You're not on the blockchain side. So you tell us what makes sense to you from what you see and what you think would make sense to you if it was possible, because I would really like to hear that. I would really like to hear the input of somebody who's not in the blockchain echo chamber.
I have multiple voices in my head telling me different opinions. Think of my buddy Brendan, who would say, this is exciting. We're going to see growth in an industry for smaller tea farmers that had never been done before. And so that's going to incentivize the people in the tea industry to be more methodical in the teas that they import and produce. There are that guy Sky from Cincinnati, who I said, hey, he can definitely be one of the guys to jump on the Palmyra blockchain technology. It's like, you're more than qualified to do this. You can do this. And it's going to be something that benefits your customers. From a personal standpoint, I think that directly tied to my business, I don't have to tell customers I can't get that. Usually they ask for something, and the right response is, don't tell me what you want, tell me how much you want. Because there's a price to bring it here. But now I can do it in small increments. That wasn't available before.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I guess from what I gather from what you said, it's kind of the different levels of granularity of data that you can use for yourself, right? Versus and also this data that is I guess automated in a way where you don't have to keep gathering data, right? Because it is also on an immutable ledger. It is available, and so they don't have to, you don't have to say, oh, let me see how much is available. You can see how much is available. Tell me how much you need. I mean, that's basically what you're saying, right? So it's about really the bandwidth of access. Is that correct?
Well, Dan, I can hear your blockchain technology. I can hear your mind coming from like the world you're in. But from a consumer standpoint, they just want to make sure that they can get their product and their tea. And as an importer, as a business owner, being able to deliver that, when I can see a clear track of where it's coming from and how long it's going to take, that's going to just make my life much easier. I can't tell you, oh my gosh, okay, 80% of the people who are walking the floor at the World Tea Expo wish they could see how much tea that, their tea that they sell to their customers, that their wholesaler supplier had in stock. They
right.
Because if they did, they would probably buy more, or they'd probably buy less. It would be
Right.
more strategic in how they do business.
Right. And so now if you can go online and you can see how many kilograms there are of a particular batch at one time or another, that's a game changer for you as a buyer, right? That's data that was opaque to you before.
Well, if I did that, I would have another warehouse that I wouldn't put that stuff in, because there's going to be people who buy it up really quickly. Remember, I'm not going to mention any nationalities because it's a tea, but there are some people who just love to stock up. And
Well, get ready to open your next warehouse, brother, because we have batch level information. But no, before we get there, though, I'm just curious to know more about those early transactions. I mean, what was different about being able to get access to that tea at in lower volumes like that?
less pressure. There's less pressure for me to spend capital on inventory and then hold that inventory for a long time, or the pressure of like, I got to sell this really quickly. I said the three things that every tea industry struggles with. It's what tea to carry, how much of that to carry, and then sell it as a profit. If you have the data to be able to track how much the inventory is, and you can start selling it in advance before it gets here. Because I can't tell you, this is true for everyone in the tea industry who has ever sold tea. Okay, they thought they had X amount of money, X amount of tea, and then they found out they were wrong. They had more, they had less, and it inflates the price for better or for worse. I can't tell you every tea, the biggest tea people, and I know the people who sell to Lipton, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, Tivana. If they had known, how much tea was coming in, and they could track when it would be here, it would have changed the way they did business. A lot of people don't know this. The grocery store tea blew up. So many people, at least in the United States, so many people were buying green tea, healthy tea during 2020 because people were stocking up. And now a bunch of the tea manufacturers, the tea importers, they bought more tea, and there was a bubble where it was just really slowed down because people were overreacting and how much tea they were buying, simply because they had that hoarder mindset because they didn't know when the next shipment of tea was coming in. And this is because of things like what was going on in India, because there was factory that caught on fire. This is what was going on in Australia because tea wasn't being allowed to leave the ports. This is in Los Angeles, Long Beach, where we had all these ships just lined up waiting to get delivered. People would have really benefited from having blockchain technology to track where it's at.
So, well, I mean, this is from one of our regulars here, Benjamin Wilson. He's asking, so how much of the problem in the tea industry in terms of supply is a data issue? So, I mean, we've spoken about this already quite extensively, but what would you say percentage-wise? I mean, is it the bulk of the issue is kind of data clarity and data availability?
I'm thinking as far as two types of data. One, the quality of the tea, right? That is a data. Like if you don't know the quality of tea, you think it's good, then you find out it's not up to par. How much do you have inventory, and then how long is it going to take? Those are the essential right there. You're looking at 75%. 20% maybe is the price, if that. I would say 10% is the price. There's other things like where it's located. If you think about business in any industry, you can know like the price of it, right? You can know the price of the tea right here. You know the price of the tea. But how much is it going to take to get it delivered here? How long is it going to take? All those are key factors that help us navigate business and share that with the customer.
And so, would you say that this is a serious problem for the industry? Is the lack of the data that you just mentioned?
Over 50% easily. Look at the best businesses track their track their data. The best tea businesses know what they have, how much they have, how long it will take to deliver. All that is secondary to the tea. The tea is the commodity. It's the information that's connected to that. And think about it for any business, right? Like, oh, I want that cup of tea. You assume that I'll be able to pull it out, make the cup, and deliver it to you at this temperature, right? You assume that. But in the tea industry, think about it from like, another continent. I'm going to pick it, bring it over here, prepare it, put it in the packaging, making sure that it's going to be delivered when and where it's supposed to be at the time. Those are huge key factors. It's well over 50% easily. Sorry if that didn't sound very nice, but like.
It's emotional. Well, listen, I mean, we want. I mean, this is not a sugarcoating type of show. I mean, we really need to have get down to the brass tacks here. I mean, that's what you've been doing, and I appreciate that. So we have a follow-up question from Benjamin. Okay, so if the supply of a given tea were tracked and made privy to the broader market, do you think this would cure the supply-demand issue? So, and this is actually a question that I also had for what you were saying before. You said that if there was more clarity into, say, stock, so retailer or a buyer would have more clarity into the amount of stock in the warehouse or their wholesaler had, they could buy more tea or less tea, and they could plan better. So, first of all, I have kind of a two-part question. Number one, would you say it would be, in the end, would they buy more or less tea than now on an average? They would buy. Yeah, go ahead.
They would buy more tea, and they would buy it strategically. They would know. So I work with Star West Botanicals, and I put out a list for the next 6 months of 25 different herbs that we use for our blends. ZanisTea.com. Take a look at it. And 1/3 of them, there's no ETA. 1/3, no ETA. You know what that means? That means I have to figure out a different way to prepare the blends from different resources, and that's going to change how I present my inventory. It's going to share how I present my sales. When there's an inventory issue and I know about it, I can prepare for it in advance. I've been out of tea. Our favorite tea, I was out of tea for 7 months, and I sold $1 million worth of tea in that time. Okay. One of the favorite teas, I was able to negotiate to move things around so that the customer did not notice, and so they didn't feel that weight. It also helps the brand better present itself, so it keeps that customer relations higher. So you would buy more tea, yes, but you'd be more strategic and how and when you would buy that tea.
And so my second the second part of my question is, so on the supplier side, on the producer side, what we spoke about towards the beginning of the show, where you have an oversupply. You have an oversupply of low-grade tea, and you also have untracked supply of stock tea. Would you say that that applying these technologies would cure this? And also, okay, so I can see how, personally, I can see how it could cure it, but also, what resistance would there be? I mean, who are the people that are going to say, no, we don't like that because this is hurting our bottom line? What do you think about that?
Some of my senior sales reps know how to present a project saying, hey, we don't have much inventory left. Buy as much as you can at top dollar, knowing that we're going to get a shipment in and the price of that tea is going to drop in comparison to the next. So I wouldn't say that this isn't going to cure. It's just going to soften the headaches that come with the tea industry, because inventory will always be an issue. lack of or too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's all about efficiency, right? So it's about making these processes more efficient, and then letting the market decide what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And this is why I think some are afraid of this transparency that technology brings, is because then the market has to decide. The free market, capitalism, this thing, and not everybody likes to have that. People like to keep gates
I think of
because they think that they can't compete. Yeah. So go ahead.
Henry Ford said, "If I asked my customers what they wanted, they'd ask for faster horses." You remember?
Yeah. No,
And
it's
I can tell customers, I don't even know if this sounds right because I want to be loving and caring how I say this. But think about it. If you are running a business and you know in the back that you have so much of green tea, but you have a lot of white tea, you're going to promote that white tea. And so if the blockchain technology helps me to understand where the global tea market is, and this is why the World Tea Expo is so valuable, is for that industry, that data, that insight. Tea farmers talking about what they have going. It really helps us it really helps the world do better. It's the second most consumed beverage, right behind water. This is not just a tea industry issue. This is a global economical issue that affects everyone, down to the person picking the tea, the little lady who's picking the tea, who has no opportunity for a college education or a job outside of her village.
Yeah. It really is pretty powerful to see the impact that you could make in these people's lives by bringing these solutions to the industry. And this is what excites me and excites my team. And this is why it's exciting for us to work with people like yourself, who are also out there kind of thinking. We're in the same wavelength, right? But we kind of solve different parts of the puzzle. And I think that is very crucial to have, because, from one side, we're not experts on everything tea, and we don't have to be. And this is why we want to have specialists like you from other parts of the industry to fill in those gaps for us. And so, I guess we're kind of coming up at the bottom of the hour, the top of the hour. I never got that figured out. Is the end of the hour the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour? Which is it?
It's running
anyway.
short time, Dan.
Yeah. Anyway, we're coming up to the end of the podcast, and so just as kind of a last little segment. So I wanted to get a little bit of kind of alpha from you about, so you have expanded your buying also into spices, right? Into cinnamon. You have other blends utilizing Palmyra. And again, I really don't like to shill Palmyra too much in this show, because this is really all about technology adoption. But I'm really kind of excited to hear what Zen's Tea has in store for your customers from the commodities that you've sourced from Palmyra as of recently, and V2 of Palmyra that just came out actually last week at the World Tea Expo.
Cinnamon, new herbs, spices. We're trying to grow the cafes and really service other tea companies. People, we're going to offer more. I'll tell you that, Dan. We're going to offer more, and it's going to get better. And I'm really excited for the future.
Well, I am actually very excited to, well, one of these days to actually visit Zen's Teas in California. Maybe next time out into the U.S., I'll make sure to make a detour and visit one of these tea houses because I mean I follow. By the way, to all who's watching, so Fernando and Zen's Teas has a really nice Instagram. Have a lot of really nice and delicious looking stuff over there. Really cool updates. So check them out there. Also, please check out zenstea.com. Really, again, a lot of really, really good products. Really just, makes you want to drink tea. You see this stuff, you want to drink it, which is, I guess, that's the whole point. Well, listen, Fernando, it was a pleasure to have you on the mainstream. Again, your involvement with us and your kind of, I guess, bravery as a businessman to take a leap of faith with us and become the first Palmyra pioneer has been has given us an immeasurable amount of value and data and possibilities to really explore what the platform means in the real world, not just kind of do it in a silo like a lot of these products are built, but really to explore, to see what works, what doesn't work. And of course, I mean, you're very optimistic, you're very positive, but not everything worked right away, right? We had to fine tune some things.
No, part of being successful is, working within reality.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, and actually, let show everybody the outside of Zen's Tea so that they know when they come down what to look for.
I'm in LA, so in LA you could do just about anything you want. Right here, this is where we're at in Whittier. This is my hometown.
Oh, excellent!
Right here. So,
I think actually been on that street.
You don't get arrested in LA for just being in the middle of the street.
Well, let's not test your luck.
All right, I'll see you guys.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks again, Fernando. Thanks for coming on the show. And yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in. And once again, this is Dan, currently not in Japan, and our guest, Fernando from Zen's Teas. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all next week, same time, same YouTube channel. And until then, have a good one.